Amazon Web Services, AWS, terminology flashcards. Set 9. Private subnet. Private subnet is a VPC subnet whose instances cannot be reached from the Internet. Product code. Product code is an identifier provided by AWS when you submit a product to AWS Marketplace. Property rule. Property rule is a JSON-compliant markup standard for declaring properties, mappings, and output values in an AWS CloudFormation template. Provisioned IOPS. Provisioned IOPS is a storage option designed to deliver fast, predictable, and consistent I/O performance. When you specify an IOPS rate while creating a DB instance, Amazon RDS provisions that IOPS rate for the lifetime of the DB instance. Pseudo-parameter. Pseudo-parameter is a predefined setting, such as AWS stack name, that can be used in AWS CloudFormation templates without having to declare them. You can use pseudo-parameters anywhere you can use a regular parameter. Public AMI. Public AMI is an Amazon Machine Image, AMI, that all AWS accounts have permission to launch. Public Dataset. Public Dataset is a large collection of public information that can be seamlessly integrated into applications that are based in the AWS cloud. Amazon stores public datasets at no charge to the community and, like all AWS services, users pay only for the compute and storage they use for their own applications. These datasets currently include data from the Human Genome Project, the US Census, Wikipedia, and other sources. Public IP address. Public IP address is a public numerical address, for example, 192.0.2.44, that network devices use to communicate with one another using the Internet Protocol, IP. EC2 instances are assigned two IP addresses at launch, which are directly mapped to each other through network address translation, NAT, a private address, following RFC 1918, and a public address. Exception: instances launched in Amazon VPC are assigned only a private IP address. Public subnet. Public subnet is a subnet whose instances can be reached from the Internet. Query. Query is a type of web service that generally uses only the GET or POST HTTP method and a query string with parameters in the URL. Query string authentication. Query string authentication is an AWS feature that lets you place the authentication information in the HTTP request query string instead of in the authorization header, which enables URL-based access to objects in a bucket. Queue. Queue is a sequence of messages or jobs that are held in temporary storage awaiting transmission or processing. Range get. Range get is a request that specifies a byte range of data to get for a download. If an object is large, you can break up a download into smaller units by sending multiple range get requests that each specify a different byte range to get. Raw email. Raw email is a type of send mail request with which you can specify the email headers and MIME types. Redis. Redis is a fast, open source, in-memory key-value data structure store. Redis comes with a set of versatile in-memory data structures with which you can easily create a variety of custom applications. Reference. Reference is a means of inserting a property from one AWS resource into another. For example, you could insert an Amazon EC2 security group property into an Amazon RDS resource. Region. Region is a named set of AWS resources in the same geographical area. A region comprises at least two availability zones. Regression model. Regression model is a type of machine learning model that predicts a numeric value, such as the exact purchase price of a house. Regularization. Regularization is a machine learning, ML, parameter that you can tune to obtain higher quality ML models. Regularization helps prevent ML models from memorizing training data examples instead of learning how to generalize the patterns it sees, called overfitting. When training data is overfitted, the ML model performs well on the training data but does not perform well on the evaluation data or on new data. Requester pays. Requester pays is an Amazon S3 feature that allows a bucket owner to specify that anyone who requests access to objects in a particular bucket must pay the data transfer and request costs. Reservation. Reservation is a collection of EC2 instances started as part of the same launch request. Not to be confused with a reserved instance. Reserved instance. Reserved instance is a pricing option for EC2 instances that discounts the on-demand usage charge for instances that meet the specified parameters. Customers pay for the entire term of the instance, regardless of how they use it. Reserved Instance Marketplace. Reserved Instance Marketplace is an online exchange that matches sellers who have reserved capacity that they no longer need with buyers who are looking to purchase additional capacity. Reserved instances that you purchase from third-party sellers have less than a full standard term remaining and can be sold at different upfront prices. The usage or reoccurring fees remain the same as the fees set when the reserved instances were originally purchased. Full standard terms for reserved instances available from AWS run for 1 year or 3 years. Resource. Resource is an entity that users can work with in AWS, such as an EC2 instance, an Amazon DynamoDB table, an Amazon S3 bucket, an IAM user, an AWS Ops Work stack, and so on. Resource property. Resource property is a value required when including an AWS resource in an AWS CloudFormation stack. Each resource may have one or more properties associated with it. For example, an AWS EC2 instance resource may have a user data property. In an AWS CloudFormation template, resources must declare a properties section, even if the resource has no properties. Role. Role is a tool for giving temporary access to AWS resources in your AWS account. Rollback. Rollback is a return to a previous state that follows the failure to create an object, such as AWS CloudFormation stack. All resources associated with the failure are deleted during the rollback. For AWS CloudFormation, you can override this behavior using the Disable Rollback option on the command line. Root device volume. Root device volume is a volume that contains the image used to boot the instance, also known as a root device. If you launched the instance from an AMI backed by instance store, this is an instance store volume created from a template stored in Amazon S3. If you launched the instance from an AMI backed by Amazon EBS, this is an Amazon EBS volume created from an Amazon EBS snapshot. Root table. Root table is a set of routing rules that controls the traffic leaving any subnet that is associated with the root table. You can associate multiple subnets with a single root table, but a subnet can be associated with only one root table at a time. Sampling period. Sampling period is a defined duration of time, such as 1 minute, over which Amazon CloudWatch computes a statistic. Sandbox. Sandbox is a testing location where you can test the functionality of your application without affecting production, incurring charges, or purchasing products. Scaling activity. Scaling activity is a process that changes the size, configuration, or makeup of an auto-scaling group by launching or terminating instances. Scaling policy. Scaling policy is a description of how auto-scaling should automatically scale an auto-scaling group in response to changing demand. Secret access key. Secret access key is a key that is used in conjunction with the access key ID to cryptographically sign programmatic AWS requests. Signing a request identifies the sender and prevents the request from being altered. You can generate secret access keys for your AWS account, individual IAM users, and temporary sessions. Security Group. Security Group is a named set of allowed inbound network connections for an instance. Security groups in Amazon VPC also include support for outbound connections. Each security group consists of a list of protocols, ports, and IP address ranges. A security group can apply to multiple instances, and multiple groups can regulate a single instance. Sender ID. Sender ID is a Microsoft-controlled version of SPF, an email authentication and anti-spoofing system. For more information about Sender ID, see Sender ID in Wikipedia. Service Health Dashboard. Service Health Dashboard is a web page showing up-to-the-minute information about AWS service availability. The dashboard is located at http://status.aws.amazon.com. Service Quotas. Service Quotas is a service for viewing and managing your quotas easily and at scale as your AWS workloads grow. Quotas, also referred to as limits, are the maximum number of resources that you can create in an AWS account. Service Role. Service Role is an IAM role that grants permissions to an AWS service so it can access AWS resources. The policies that you attach to the service role determine which AWS resources the service can access and what it can do with those resources. Shared AMI. Shared AMI is an Amazon machine image, AMI, that a developer builds and makes available for others to use.